Hello, this is Miss McCauley, and this video was created by Mrs. Tiglis, and it is about here's how to evaluate algebraic expressions.
Today we're going to be working on evaluating expressions. Okay, and to evaluate expressions, the first thing we need to know is what an algebraic expression is. So as you can see here, again, make sure you have these notes loaded in GoodNotes so you can write down the same things that I'm writing. And algebraic expressions contain at least one variable. Now I think we've already talked about this year, so we're pretty familiar with a variable. In this case, the n would be the variable. A variable is a letter that represents something that is unknown. Okay, so it contains at least one variable and one operation. By operation, of course, we mean adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, etc. So, for example, in the expression n plus 2, the expression n plus 2 represents the sum, meaning the answer to an addition problem, of an unknown number, so some number plus 2. Okay, now as you can see right now, we do not have an equal sign. Okay, this is just an expression, not an equation. If it was an equation, it would say n plus 2 equals, and then we would be given another number, and we could solve for that variable. But today we're just focusing on the algebraic expressions. Okay, so a couple things that you need to be familiar with here is that, let's see, the letter x is often used as a variable, and to avoid confusion with x, there's other ways to show multiplication. So I want you guys all to be very familiar with this. The dot, again, these are things we've kind of talked about this year, so hopefully this is going to be review. If we have the dot, that means to multiply. If you have the parentheses, right, if you have 5 and then the x in parentheses or whatever variable in parentheses, that also means to multiply. And finally, the most common way, and the way I would like you to get familiar with writing a multiplication, is just having the number right next to the variable. That always means to multiply, okay? So 5x means 5 times whatever the value of x is. Okay, the variables in an expression can be replaced with any number, and once the variables have been replaced, you can evaluate or find the value of the algebraic expression. Okay, don't be confused by this. Here's all that this is saying. Evaluate means solve. Okay, so never forget that. Evaluate, anytime you see the word evaluate in math, that always means that you're going to solve it. Okay, so let's take a look at a quick example. These are going to get progressively harder, as they always seem to do. And the first one here, it says evaluate or solve 16 plus b if b equals 25. So again, here we have our 16 plus b. Now, when you do these problems, this is very important, okay? I'm telling you this now so that you don't make this mistake on your assignment, because you will have to redo the assignment if you do not show your work appropriately here. Okay, so what we have to do is, in this case, the value of b is 25. So where we see the b, we're going to substitute in the number 25 because that's given. Okay, they tell us right here that b equals 25. So we have 16 plus 25. This is the part that you must show. Okay, you must show that whatever you had for your variable, that you are now substituting in or plugging in the number for that variable. I need to see this step. Okay, and then 16 plus 25, of course, is 41. Okay, the next problem we have here is x minus y, and they tell us that x is 64 and y is 27. So we can write down x minus y. Where we see the x, we're going to substitute in the value of 64, and where we see the y, we're going to substitute in the value of 27. Now, I don't expect you to be able to solve this equation this way. I would need to write it up and down to solve it. Okay, so we can show our borrowing, and then we would get 37. Okay, so the value of that expression is 37. The next one I want to look at is with a fraction. Now don't freak out because you see a fraction. Okay, you guys all know how to work with fractions. So this says 6x. And if you remember from what we talked about earlier, is whenever you have a number right next to the variable, the operation is multiplication. Okay, so don't let that confuse you. This means 6 times the value of x. So we're going to have our 6 here. And now where I see the x, I'm going to substitute in the value of 1/2. Okay, and I'm going to put it in parentheses just as a way to write the problem so it doesn't look like 6 1/2. Okay, now as you remember to multiply fractions, we can write the 6 as 6 over 1, and we do times 1/2. Now we always look to cross simplify. We know that 2 can go into both 2 and 6, so the 2 is going to become a 1, the 6 is going to become a 3, and we multiply straight across. 3 times 1 is 3, 1 times 1 is 1, and 3 over 1 is the same thing as 3. So if we're evaluating 6x, if x equals 1/2, that simply means that we're doing 6 times 1/2, which equals 3. Okay, what I'd like you to do now is pause the video and go ahead and try the next 4 problems here, A, B, C, and D, on your own. Remember, what you must show is what you're substituting in for each value so that you can solve these, okay? So we need to be able to see what your work is. So when you send your teacher these notes, we will be looking for that on your notes, okay? If you have any questions, just get as far as you can right now, and then you can come back to the video if you had any questions, and I'm going to go over them. We can do them together. Okay, welcome back. Let's see how you did. Let's start with letter A. A says A plus 8. So if we look in what the problem says here, it says that A is equal to 6. So where we see the A, we're going to substitute or plug in the number 6, and 6 plus 8 is equal to 14. Okay? Again, I don't want to see just the 14. I don't want you to do this in your head because they are eventually going to get harder, and we're trying to develop good habits right now so that you know how to solve harder problems in the future. Okay? So you must show this step right here. Okay? If we don't see that, you wouldn't be getting full credit, and you're going to have to redo that. Okay, let's take a look now at letter B. B says A minus B. So we're going to look back at the problem, and we know again that A is 6, and the value of B given in the problem is 4. So we write, sorry about that, 6 minus 4, which of course equals 2. So for B, you should have gotten 2. Letter C says A times B. Okay, again, in this case, they're using the dot to represent multiplication. They also could have written it just like this, AB, and that would mean multiply A times B. So let's go ahead and do that. Where we see the A, we put the 6. Again, the B is equal to 4. 6 times 4 is 24. So C should have got 20. You should have gotten 24. Okay, and then D, now we have a fraction. I hope nobody got scared of the fraction because they're not scary. You guys are really good at fractions now. Okay, this means 9 times the value of C. So we're going to do 9 times, in this case, C is equal to 1/3. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put a 1 under the 9. I'm going to look to cross simplify. I know that 3 goes into both 3 and 9, so the 3 becomes a 1. The 9 becomes a 3. Multiply straight across, and I would get 3 over 1, which is the same as 3. Okay, so 9 times 1/3 is 3. Hopefully you got all 4 of those correct. Let's go on to the next page. Okay, now we're getting into solving multi-step expressions. So again, this is getting, instead of only adding or only subtracting, we're going to be doing more than one step. Okay, so we have a couple examples here. The first one says, evaluate 5t plus 4 if t is equal to 3. Okay, so here our expression is 5t plus 4, and they're telling us in the problem that t is equal to 3. So what that means is we're going to do 5 times 3 plus 4. Now again, I want to keep emphasizing this. 5t means 5 times 3. I sometimes have seen students write the number 53 as if that doesn't mean to multiply. This does not mean the number 53. It means 5 times 3, which is equal to 15. Okay, so now we have 15 plus 4, which is going to be equal to 19. Okay, let's take a look at number 5 here. It says evaluate 4x squared if x is equal to 1/8. Okay, now don't freak out. Again, just because we have an exponent here, I know you guys can handle this. Okay, so we're going to do 4. Where we see the x, we're going to substitute in the value given, which is 1/8. And the 1/8 is to the second power. Okay, now I've seen a couple, I've seen different errors made with this type of a problem. When we have the exponent, let me show you what I mean here. When we have the exponent right next to the variable like that, the only thing that you're squaring or multiplying it by itself is that the value of x. Okay, and if you remember order of operations, or you think back to order of operations, we always do exponents before we would be multiplying. So the first thing we're going to have to do is evaluate just this part of our expression. So 1/8 squared means 1/8 times 1/8. Okay, we can't do any cross simplifying in this case, so if we go straight across, we get 1/64. But again, that's only this part of our expression. Now, we have to take this 4, and we have to do 4 times 1/64. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a 1 underneath here. And let's see, I think I can go ahead and cross simplify this. 4 is going to go into both 4 and 64. So 4 goes into 4 once, and 4 goes into 64 16 times. Okay, so now I can multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 16 is 16. So our final answer here is going to be 1/16. Okay, now again, I just want you to take a look back at what we did. We started with our value of x as 1/8, and we squared that, which means we multiplied 1/8 times itself. We did not do 1/8 times 2. Okay, it's 1/8 times 1/8, which equals 1/64. Then we took that 1/64 and we multiplied it by 4 to complete our problem. Okay, go ahead, I'd like you to try a couple more here on your own. I would like you to actually do 6, and down here I'd like you to do E, F, and G. Go ahead and try these problems, and then come on back, and hopefully you'll be able to get them right. Okay, we'll go through how to do them. So try your best. Remember to show all your work and show what you're substituting in for each variable. Okay, welcome back. Let's start with number 6 and see how you did. So the first problem here, number 6, says 10 times a plus 7. And this one kind of guides us through what to do. So the first thing it says to do is replace a with 1/5, because again, that's given in the problem. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, now I'm going to evaluate this part. And by this part, I mean 10 times 1/5. I'm going to do it off to the side here so you can see. We can write the 10 as 10 over 1 times 1/5. We look to cross simplify. 5 goes into both 10 and 5, so the 5 becomes a 1, and the 10 is going to become a 2. 2 times 1 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 over 1 is the same as 2. Now I know I might have done that a little fast, but that's because you guys are, we've already done multiplying fractions. So hopefully you're not getting stressed or confused by this, because it's already work that you know how to do. So 10 times 1/5 equals 2, and then we're simply going to do 2 plus 7, which is 9. So the answer here should have been 9. Hope you got that right.
Okay, that's the end of part 1 of evaluating expressions. Please complete E, F, and G on your own in the part 1 note check, and then you'll be ready to move on to part 2.